Hello and welcome back to Derailed. This is episode 7. My name is Greg Ori, and today I am joined by my good friends and now lovers, Adash and Harry. Boys, how are your spirits and your bodies?
I guess we're new people.
Battered.
Oh,
Wait,
from the train running.
Your spirit or your body?
You asked for both.
Oh. So both, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we've
Harry,
been running
how
that
about-
train.
How about your body and spirit?
Body's chilling for now. Spirit.
That's just never true.
All right, fuck off.
No disaster has happened, and that's chilling for Harry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Minor
no.
defects are still chilling within the
Yesterday,
realm of
though, after I finished working on the ping pong table stance and stuff, I sat down in my chair and just slightly leaned to the left, and my back popped. And I was like, damn, that's all it took. That's all it took. And then I stood up, and I felt like 20 cracks between my legs and hip.
Oh my god!
And I was like, damn, this is what it is now.
This
And then I
man
cracked
is-
my back again, and then walked away to the bathroom.
What is that condition where your bones are brittle? What's the name of it?
I don't think it's my
Osteoporosis?
bones.
Arthritis? Oh, it might be.
I don't think
osteoporosis.
I'll have brittle bones. It's just a lot of poppy bone bones. My
I
boys
mean, you
are
definitely
poppy.
don't have brittle bone disease. If you had brittle bone disease, you would be
That's
dead
true.
right now.
That's true.
People who have that cannot play rugby.
Yeah, no.
Fair.
For sure. They just die.
I guess it's more.
Anyway.
joints.
Yeah.
Yeah, today it is Harry's turn to choose a topic. And what is that topic, Harristicles?
So I kind of want to go over. This is a hypothetical parenting. How would if you have kids? How would you change the way your parents raised you? How would you raise your kids? And how different would it be the way your parents raised
Oh,
you?
Harry, you have opened up a whole can of worms.
Oh yeah,
I'm about to not be serious at all with this topic.
That's fine. That's fine. And also, towards the end, we can kind of talk about our lives in Asian parenting because it is different from
Yeah,
others.
That's true.
And yeah, and then we can compare.
Have you guys ever seen that meme where it's it's the love hearts and that have writing on them, like the Valentine's candies things, and so it's
yeah.
the two parents and the kid. And the parents are like, "We will not fuck you up the way our parents fucked us up." And the kids' writing is a whole new kind of fucked up.
yeah.
All right, that's a good topic.
Yeah.
Let's get back to talking about Harry's body. So, so when you say crack, do you mean like knuckles cracking or like a more ominous crack?
No, it's like the
Ominous
popping and
crack.
cracking from knuckles cracking. I guess I should probably show you next time I'm over. My knee, I can pop it. Like right now in the wintertime, it just clicks and cracks naturally every time I bend it.
I can't wait for you to show me this live. I'm so excited.
I can actually probably snap it because it's audible enough that you
Snap
know,
it into
you
the
can hear
mic.
it.
Do it.
No, I can't. I'm not bringing my leg that high. No.
Do you guys are you guys like knuckle crackers? Like, do you do that a lot?
Oh yeah.
Only a case. If I've been working on something and my knuckles all feel stiff, I do it. But I can't get every knuckle to crack. I've only gotten every knuckle to crack once. I'm not one of those psychos that can do it on command. I don't even like it. If after a certain point, it feels weird to me.
Nah. I can probably do it by the hour.
Harry's one of the psychos, basically.
Yeah,
So I can
I'm
do
aware.
every finger but
He's
my
done it in front of
pinky.
me.
But your pinky.
My pinkies are chilling, but my thumbs through the ring I can crack.
Do you crack your toes?
I can, but they're stubby, so there's no point.
Oh.
I've
is
cracked
that
them
a-
before.
oh.
I can crack my jaw.
Yeah.
Okay, I just tried to crack every single finger. Only my right ring finger and my left middle finger cracked.
I'm just thinking last episode we talked about the dumbest ways that Harry could possibly die. Well, imagine Harry just dies
Dude,
right
he's
now trying to
cracking
crack
his jaw.
things. Yeah, breaks his neck.
I don't know if it actually got picked up, but I did crack my jaw.
Oh, that's probably talking over it. Do it again.
I can't do it more
No.
than once.
You know,
Once it's popped, it's actually just
instead of
good for,
a
the rest of the
3, 2,
day.
1 clap, now we should do 3, 2, 1 and then crack a part of your body.
Oh my god!
I don't think I can do that consistently enough for the.
I can't either.
Sick.
I crack my knuckles but like very rarely. Like it's only when they're
Same.
like aching, and that doesn't happen much. The only part of my body that I crack a lot is my back, because like I do have a good office chair, but my posture on my office chair is not always the best, especially when gaming. I'm very much a lean-in gamer, so I get the full IMAX experience just because I'm that far into my screen.
We're actually very different on that then.
Yeah,
that's why I love playing controller. Like there are like games of Rocket League I'm full sweating, but I'm like leaned all the way back. This is like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was one of those people in Rocket League who like I felt the inertia of the car. Like my body would be swaying back and forth based on how I was moving and stuff. So yeah, I was that person. And in FPS is like I am the guy who like if I'm trying to peek a corner, my physical body will try to like lean and see past the corner, even though that actually doesn't do anything.
I used to do that in the beginning, but then like once I got more accustomed to the gaming, I just didn't.
Yeah. I don't think I do it as much as I used to, but I definitely am very.
I still lean on racing games though. I think you kind of gotta.
Yeah,
it is part of the appeal, just like deja vu.
It's a requirement,
feeling the drift.
If you're not leaning while you're racing, are you really racing?
No, that is true.
No, you're not. It's fake racing. Okay,
right.
So yeah, do you want to take it away, Harry?
Yep. So we'll go through some of these categories as like an outline, and then we'll chime in here and there as we talk. And I think towards the end, if we have things we want to talk about that we didn't cover in the categories, we can go ahead and do like a free talk, and we'll talk about that. And if we still time permits, which probably won't, we'll just we can try and see if we can do the whole discussing Asian households and how that jazz goes.
I will say before we start, I did say I was going to make a lot of joke answers for this, and oh my god, that was
got
terrifying.
Picked up?
Be gone, foul demon.
No. See, the best part is that the latter half of the sneeze, the part that didn't get picked up. Just the wind up got picked up. So it just sounded like you sped run going Super Saiyan.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to keep that in, but
so
I'll have to. I'll keep that in, but I'll have to lower it down, definitely. I mean, that's the normal sneeze for me now.
Slow that down. Add the Super Saiyan theme music to it.
I'll leave that to you, Greg, honestly. If you want to edit it.
God.
Yeah, so basically, it's just, I think because of how potentially long this topic could be talked about, I was like, yeah, there's not going to be time for joke answers, I think, so I just didn't do that. So I'm walking back on that, even though I said that like 2 minutes ago, based on podcast continuity. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so the first one I'm going to go off is probably, I would say it's pretty light. Lying to your kids about certain like myths and I guess how to say
things that they're like not old enough to know.
So we have Christmas, Tooth Fairy, Segs.
Segs,
yeah, and stuff like that. Lying to your kid about those kind of things, or like letting them think about something that's not actually true.
Okay, so the first two, this is easy for me, right?
I figured it would be.
Yeah. The main reason this is easy for me is I'm assuming if I have a kid, I'm not a single father. Hopefully, anyway. And if that's the case, these are things I would absolutely break my child's heart on.
Wow.
But also, these are things I recognize I don't have the final say. It would be whoever I end up marrying.
That's true.
That is true.
Yeah.
So it's like, if she doesn't care, I'm gonna be like, yeah, son, Santa is actually just a capitalist myth, and I would like launch into a tirade on how greed and corporate consumerism has ruined the.
I feel that's a little unnecessary and extreme, but You do.
You gotta radicalize them young,
Adash's kid just comes home from school and he's like, Dad, all the kids are talking about Santa. Is Santa coming here? And Adash is like, Santa's not real, son. Now let me bring out my PowerPoint. Reasons why Santa isn't real. 50 reasons why.
Here's a live Google Maps view of the North Pole. You see any Santa Claus in that bitch?
Oh man.
What about you, Harry?
See, I think, knowing Banana, she probably will do the whole, Santa, Tooth Fairy stuff. And then I think sex stuff will come when it's time. I think that's also very important talk, but too young, it's a little unnecessary. I think probably entering middle school. Earliest, I would say, is probably like 4th or 5th grade.
But the question is, what if your kid is like, how are babies made? What is your answer to that if they're too young?
I would literally just say this is a conversation that we'll have later. Like, I'll be like, it involves your like dad and mom, and I'll say the process I will explain to you when you're older.
Yeah, that's
and,
that.
Like, you can just leave it at
sounds
that.
about something about that.
You don't have to like lie to your kid. You don't have to be like a fucking stork brought you here. Like, you can just be like, it involves a biological thing between your like me and your mom, and I'll explain the process when you're older, and just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. Like, especially when you're really young, certain things you try to explain, they're always going to ask why, but they're not actually going to grasp anything. So you got to give them like a close case and closed answer that will most likely satisfy them, but it's not too much that they're sitting here going to think about misconceptions about the topic and stuff like that. Santa, I think I'm going to let them believe it until they don't. Tooth Fairy,
until you get caught.
Tooth Fairy, I don't know, because that was always like low-key full of horseshit.
My kid is never gonna learn about the Tooth Fairy. You think I'm giving them money?
I already know the answer for
bread, they're gonna have to earn it
for a dash for this. But Harry, did you believe in Santa and the Tooth Fairy?
I did for a bit, but I think after a couple of years of staying up past midnight and nothing happening, and no one.
So you were that kid.
Yeah.
You were the like, I need proof.
At one point, my older sister and I would actually like
no,
stay up and try and catch Santa.
Yeah,
but alas, I never found a fucker coming down our chimney. And later on, I thought about it. I was like, how the fuck is he coming down our chimney? That shit is small. It
is. Yeah, I was gonna say it is a little bit of a mixed myth, because on one hand, everyone agrees that Santa's fat, but then on the other hand, they all say that he goes down the chimney, and I don't think those really work together necessarily.
It's gotta be magic, because our chimney's mad dirty, bro.
Yeah. There's this like War and Peace comic where there's this like little girl. She's asked her dad, it's like, Daddy, won't Santa Claus burn up if we leave the chimney on? And the dad goes, good point, honey, let's turn off the chimney. And the girl goes, no, leave it on.
Oh, man.
And there's like fire in her eyes reflected. That's one of the funniest fucking...
Yes, then all the presents will be mine. His body will cover the fire and all the presents will stay preserved on top of his burning corpse.
Also, it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's because like the concept of Santa wasn't really introduced to me till I was like already 7.
Yeah.
But like none of it made sense to me. First of all, like where I grew up, like Christmas isn't really like a normally celebrated thing, so I wasn't propagandized since I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
And so as a result, like when I heard about this, none of it made sense. I was like, okay, so one guy in one night delivers presents to every house. And I was like, except nobody I know has ever gotten these presents.
Yeah, I guess the myth would not really work for you if people aren't actually following it.
And then it's like, he comes down the chimney into your house, and I'm like, okay, but our house doesn't have a chimney. Neither does any other house in India that like, any of the normal houses. It's an apartment. So like, what does he like break into the apartment? Where's the evidence? Does he leave any evidence?
So
like,
I think,
none of this makes sense.
I think I'm probably on the opposite side of this that you guys are, because if I had a kid, I'm pretty sure I'd be full in on the whole Christmas Tooth Fairy stuff. Because like I think from my point of view, it's like I do want my kids to be like logical and think about things critically, but I think like Christmas or specifically Santa, and other things like the Tooth Fairy, just like myths and stuff like that, I think most of those are introduced and last through an age where like kids don't really have that sort of like common sense logic stuff, and where it's like basically impossible for them to really develop it without just killing their sense of like being a child. So it's like I do kind of want them to be immersed in like the childish element of like wonder and stuff, because I think the way it normally happens, or at least for me, maybe for other kids it's more of like this heart-dropping realization, but for me it's like I just started to get old enough that like I started to get questions about it, and once I was that old, like the second I figured out that Santa wasn't real, it wasn't like that disappointing because I already had some doubts. So I think like that sort of natural way of weaning people off of it is nice, but I think like just having something like, even if it's fictional, just gives kids a little bit more of a sense of like wonder and magic about the world, even if it's not necessarily true. And then I think also like a big part of it is how they interact with other kids. Cause the thing is like, if every other kid believes in Santa and your kid is the only one that doesn't, I think it creates some level of barrier between your child and the other children. Like they don't get to share in the shared community of like, wonder and magic that all the other kids are in. They're just standing outside of it. So even if they do end up being more realistic as a part of that, I think they probably end up being more depressed. I mean, this hasn't been like tested or anything, but I just personally, like as someone who did believe in Santa and the Tooth, actually, I don't think I ever believed in the Tooth Fairy, but I definitely believed in Santa. I think I would also carry that on for my kids as well, as long as everyone else is doing it. If like everybody that I knew wasn't doing Santa, then it would just be weird if my kid was the only one who believed in this mythological thing. But like if
we
culture,
all have kids, and like our kids are like, Santa, you believe in that? And Greg's like, no, Santa's real. And we're like, oh, dumbass.
Bro, I'm gonna dress up as Santa just to prove your kids wrong. I'm gonna come through your y'all's chimneys and get them a present.
Just some padding, put a pillow underneath. Bro, we've done a skit where we put a pillow under the shirt. Definitely looks like you got fatter.
I'm gonna dress up as Santa, and I'm gonna break through their windows and throw presents at them to prove that Santa's real. I'm gonna rappel down from the roof with a rope and then swing my feet into the window to break in, and I'll be like, "Santa's here, boys."
If you did that, I wouldn't mind, but you are paying the costs.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
What the fuck?
We'll create a new Santa legend, a more badass Santa.
SEAL Team 6 Santa.
He doesn't drink milk and cookies. You give him a cigar and whiskey.
What the fuck?
And he rappels down and breaks into your window.
Yeah,
I don't know about this one, boys. I don't know if this won't catch on.
So, to counteract what you said, right? Like obviously a sense of wonder is important for a child and all, but I just view it as like having to rely on make-believe things to create a sense of wonder in a child actually just, I think it hurts them in the long term. Because then, like, they realize there is no magic in the world. Like, that's not how it works. And they're like, oh, wow, so real life is just boring. Which is not really true.
I don't know if that's necessarily
I don't know if any
what
kid
happens.
I've talked to, or like as a child,
I think most people started with, or at least like the general population believes in Santa, and I don't think most people went from believing in Santa to having this crisis view of the world.
Emo depresso. I don't know about you, Adash, but I'm pretty sure kids don't think like that.
No, it's not like they go into an immediate depression mode. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, you said, like, their sense of wonder has to come from, like, something magical. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you need Santa to create a sense of wonder. And I don't think it's the most lasting way to endure that sense of wonder. Because once Santa's gone, they don't have that same sense of wonder anymore.
Well, so like, I agree that you don't need a sense of that you don't necessarily need Santa as you. I think there's many other things that can provoke a sense of wonder that are also realistic and more like helpful for your future. But I also think like Yeah, but also like I feel like that's kind of just like that point doesn't really work because it's kind of just against fiction as a whole. Like, yes, there is this distinction of knowing what's fiction and knowing what's not fiction, but like to a huge degree, like people who love fiction and love like getting invested in stories, like immerse themselves in the stories to the point that you literally feel like those characters are real and you like live with them, and it gets pretty insane. Like some people get really, really dedicated to stories and just like get fully immersed, and I think it's easier for people who already have a lot of experience in that vein to sort of continue that. So but I think the main thing for me, like regardless of the debate of that, I think is more of just the sense of community, because I think it's just like too like normal for Christmas and Santa, the Santa myth, to be believed in this country.
In America,
so like if you
yes.
So that's like if you live here and you teach your kid not to, you are kind of condemning them to being an outcast.
Yeah. You are
I think that's the main
ousting
thing.
them in society. And the little, you know, them kindergarten play dates and what's it called? Playgrounds and shit.
Yeah.
I mean
yeah. Well, that's why I said like I'm not gonna like actively because first of all I don't think like whoever I marry would let me.
Yeah.
But like if they ask me to like if they're like when's Santa coming, I'm like I don't have his number on speed dial. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I thought I was been nice enough for Santa this year. It's like like ask him, bro, not me.
I thought I was a fucking stinge, but nah, Dash is fucking.
I know Harry has heard this story. Have I told you the story of how I figured out Santa wasn't real, Adash?
I don't remember, so no.
It was, so it's not like super complicated. All that happened is that like my parents were telling me that I was gonna get a letter from Santa. And then I did get that letter from Santa, and it was like fancy and typed up, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then at some point I was on the computer, and then I saw the file that was literally called like Santa message to Gregory. And I was like, wait a second.
We know who wrote that.
I'm like 99% sure it was my sister, because she would be the one.
That takes such little effort to hide.
So I was just like, oh.
I mean, like, on one hand, good thing you figured out Santa's not real, so like the story doesn't have a bad ending. But like on the other hand, that's such little effort.
Yeah.
Just like you did not need the title to be that descriptive.
Yeah, no, like there was no incognito.
Yeah, just name it like
about
chemistry
that.
homework.
No,
yeah,
Yeah, no, I just didn't think they expected me to get into the files of the computer. I don't know. But yeah, that was how that happened. And the Tooth Fairy, I actually don't really remember whether I believed in the Tooth Fairy or not, but I do have distinct memories, like at the end of when I stopped believing in the Tooth Fairy, of like my parents just totally giving up on it and then just exchanging money for my teeth. Like I would just give them a tooth and be like, all right, here's $5. Like a full-on transaction. And I was just like, okay.
Tooth Fairy just ended up with you learning the basics of economy and trade.
Yeah, just the teeth bank.
I think it went something like that for me as well. It's like I don't think we had like a little like container where we put like our our teeth when we were young. Yeah. And so we just put it in there after we, washing it up and shit.
Yeah.
But like I don't think we ever like did the whole put it under your pillow when money would appear there. But I think it was just,
right.
My mom or dad would just be like,
this isn't a full derail.
Sliding you a 20 for that bitch.
Would you guys keep your kids' teeth? Because I don't know if I would.
Why?
But it's super common though. Like my parents did it, your parents did it. I think most parents do it. But it's just like
I think that's why.
I just remember like opening like one of the bathroom cabinets once, and then like seeing this container and opening it and just a bunch of teeth, and just like, whoa,
that's so creepy.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's like I don't know if I would keep them necessarily. I might do the Tooth Fairy, but just like yeet them out out into the garden.
Yeah.
Just to
I'll leave it up to the kid, honestly. If they want to, for some reason, to hold on to the teeth to like fuck with later,
kids too stupid to make those decisions.
I'll collect all their teeth, and then when they grow old enough, I'll do a project with them where we do like a model of someone's face and then put the teeth in.
See,
I already knew it was gonna be fucked up. As soon as you said I'm keeping them for when they're older, I was like, nope. I don't know where this is going, but I know it's not a good direction.
Well, moving on from the tooth monstrosity Greg will make. I don't know about how much this was on for you, Greg, but youth education. So this is going to involve, you do the whole pre-K thing. I think you have to enroll the kids in pre-K and pay for that, which as soon as I found out you have to pay for it, I was like, no. So pre-K stuff like that, workbooks, extra learning, like kind of like tutoring, what's it called, Kumon.
Oh god, C2 was for me.
Yeah, C2 for you.
That was a nightmare.
And then also music and sports at a young age. I guess music and sports will be later, but like the education stuff.
Yeah, it's all sort of foundational. Like yeah.
Also, I don't know if this, because I know for I mean, I'll just go off for this. For when I was a kid, stacks of workbooks, bro.
Same
workbooks for days.
We used to have a table that had like 8 SAT books that like stretched to the fucking ceiling, bro. Like it was so
okay. Well, I'm not talking about
huge
SAT
books, yeah. And we had other workbooks as well. But I'm just saying, like we had so many workbooks. And
I went through I finished so many books.
We're all Asian, so I think our experiences here are going to be relatively similar.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm like. It was good because like I was ahead as fuck in elementary school.
Yep.
But it's like it was grueling as a kid. But at the same time, I feel like moderating like an hour or two a day would definitely benefit.
I think the way you do it is you first figure out a baseline of like how much they need to finish, and then you roughly like you figure out like how much they can get done in an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you set them a target, but the target of how much they need to get done is what you think they can get done in an hour if they're really trying, like if they're focusing. So it's like ideally they should spend an hour on it, and if they spend a little more, that's fine. If they spend a little less, then they deserve
we gotta up the workload.
Maybe you can you can adjust obviously every day accordingly. But like you can also reward them for being smarter than you expected by just letting them have more free time. But yeah, essentially is because I don't like just timing or having them set it for an hour and like go. Because like I remember in like when I was in like 6th grade, my dad would just like lock me and my sister in a room and we'd each have workbooks and then we'd have to do them, and we just had to like do them for an hour and a half. And like I would get through like 40 pages, and my sister would be on the second one. If she ever even got to the second one. So it's like time doesn't matter there because you're not. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's the beginning stages of a salary worker versus paid by the job.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you set them enough work that it should take them an hour, but that's assuming they're working the entire hour.
Right, yeah.
And so if they get all of that done in less than that, that means they really tried and they really focused. And it's like, fair enough. If you've done that for an hour, you deserve a break. But if it takes them like 3 hours, it's like, that's tough because like you're slacking and that's on you.
Yeah.
So that's how I do that.
I think I've gone back and forth on how productive I think the Asian method of education is. But I think like ultimately I would just try to strike like a balance, because I do think there is definitely merit to the Asian way of doing things. I mean, there's a reason why Asians are always like ahead of the game.
100%.
Oh yeah.
And I think like there are a lot of benefits that come with that. Like obviously there's some negatives that definitely come with that as well. But there are also a lot of benefits that come with being ahead of the game, other than the obvious benefit of being ahead of the game. But like also like in my life, a lot of the good experiences have been like being one of the kids that's ahead of the game and like being with other kids that are also there. And then just like, it's just like, like it's just a good time. Like when you don't have to be in the public education drawl that everyone else is stuck in. So it is nice in a lot of ways. So I think I have to say that I would maintain a lot of the conventions of like just sitting there doing work, taking the time to really make sure you're just studying and doing book work and stuff. But I do want to especially when my children are younger, I want to have more of a focus and then eventually shift it a little bit more into the more Asian way of doing things. But when they're younger, I want the focus to be primarily on more of like actually what you were basically just talking about, Adash, which is just like letting them learn education or begin their education in a way where it's more about being curious about the world instead of doing grunt work in order to like get information into your head. So like I would really try to be as interactive as possible. And I have good examples of this because I was lucky enough to be homeschooled when I was in third grade. I was still in third grade, but I also went to like this after school thing. But it wasn't a program. It was literally just a mom and her 3 kids that she homeschooled. And then she also just taught us after school as well. And she was like probably the best teacher I've ever had, purely because like whenever she taught, it was never just like learn this. It was always like, let me show you how this works. And it was like we would do experiments. And then also like even if it was something that you can't do experiments with or something that's not like example, like you can't do an example of it in real life, like higher level math and stuff, like she would just like make it more fun. Like we would go outside and do it like with chalk, or we would like do it inside and she would like throw I remember one of my most fond childhood memories is she would always have us like answer questions and stuff from our workbooks while she was cooking us lunch, and it would always be pancakes, and then she would cook the pancake, and then whoever got it right, she would just launch the pancake at the person who got it right. And it's like if it fell on the floor, you just gotta pick it up and eat it. Like it was but it was really fun because she just made it just like such a much more fun experience to learn. And we played all sorts of board games, and then we read Harry Potter together, and it was like such a fun style of education that just like created such a huge distinction from public education for me, that I was like, if I have kids, like this is what I hope I would like to do. It is a lot of investment. Like I can only imagine the amount of work that goes behind constantly trying to think of interesting ways to do things, but I think when they're younger, I think that would be how I approach that. But I mean, I think also as they get older, there's a level of you need to learn how to just do grunt work, because that is a part of life, unfortunately. Like you do just have to.
That is a portion.
Yeah, you do just have to have that what's it called? Discipline and self-discipline and the ability to put your head down and get things done. So I think that's something that I would definitely put importance on as well. But I think you kind of need both, or at least from my point of view, I would try to do both.
Yeah, that's fair.
And probably fail, but that's my goal.
Yeah, especially like just being able to do grunt work, like your first or second, like your low tier jobs, working at your fast food or retail. If you're capable of doing grunt work, you can just slave through that and you'll deal with it fine and be good at it. Versus, certain people who it's literally the easiest job in the world and somehow it's so difficult for them. And it's like,
and it does make a difference. Like if you're a good grunt worker, people like you more at your places of work. So
and then with that, would you enroll in like, if since pre-K does cost, would you do pre-K and would you do like C2, Kumon and stuff like that?
Yes.
I don't think I would want to. I would do pre-K as well. I don't think I would want to do either C2 or Kumon. I just do not like the overly competitive spirit. Like I think there needs to be some level of like I want to do well, but I really hope that my kids are people who are competitive with themselves and not with other people, because I think that's maybe the number one like drawback to the Asian mentality is it's all just about comparing yourself to other people. And like if there's anything I've learned in life, if you compare yourself to other people, you're never going to be happy. You're always going to be miserable.
It's always like, oh yeah, John's kid does 10 hours.
Wait, why John?
I'll just say something.
No. Yeah. And also, like, I haven't been in Kumon. I've only seen horror stories from it. But I've been in C2, and it's just not a good experience. Like, there are ways of teaching people to do grunt work that aren't, like, low-key torture.
My dad tried to get Scarlett to do Kumon, and I was like,
I think the ideal situation for me would be to get, like, tutors that were, like, good tutors. But, of course, that's very financially...
Oh, I got you.
That's why I'm saying, like, if you guys are down, you guys would be, like, the best choice, in my opinion, for, like...
Really?
Because you guys are smart
I've literally done it.
Yeah, and you guys are really, like, some of the best, like, mathematicians and logical-minded people
the thing is... It depends on what I'm teaching. If I was doing automotive electrical, I think it would be great. Computer hardware,
think you could teach
but you could definitely teach like base level math and stuff easily.
Yeah,
and it's like I know a lot of those concepts, but you guys would break them down better. And I think if it's someone that they know, it also is going to be more comfortable than like some random stranger person who's forcing them to do stuff.
The thing I've learned like after 4 years of teaching is like there is actually a big gulf between And actually, what helps really drive this point home for me is how shitty my professors are. Is there's a big gulf between knowing a topic extremely well and explaining it. Like, even if you are like the leading expert on a topic, that does not actually mean you can explain it well.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between a
why-
good teacher and someone who's skilled at their craft. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and
a very
you
different
would
skill
know
set.
that as a violin tutor as well. As I'm sure you've met like violinists that are like really
extremely
good, but
good.
are
Yes,
shit teachers.
Yep. Literally one of my I'm not going to name any names, but I have a teacher who is very, very good at the violin and maybe not such a great teacher.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's like, and it's the same way for like teaching anything, and that's why I think I would teach my own kid, because like I'm really confident that I know what to teach, and like I think the difference with me is, I think the difference with me is like with kids, I think I underestimate them less than most adults do, because a lot of adults seem to think like kids aren't capable of.
Understanding
kids are
more
like
complex.
they're weird because like there's some things you just cannot teach a kid. They will just have to make those mistakes on their own and learn.
Right.
But like on the academic side, you could realistically, if a kid was actually interested enough, you could push them to the point where they were like learning high school math by age 10.
100%,
I'm not saying
100%.
I would do that.
I mean, I think the entire country of China is direct physical proof of what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
I guess India as well. Just any Asian country where academics are super intensive.
Yeah. What I think like, because what I would do is like I'd also do what you described, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't just make them do grunt work. I would have a balance, because the first thing is, before you can foster a child's sense of wonder, I feel like you gotta instill some version of discipline, and that's what I mean by like the getting them to learn every day to sit down and do an hour of work, because it teaches them how to sit down and focus on a task until the task is complete, and I think that's really valuable to have just as a skill. And once I've taught them that, is I would also, as the same way I tutor kids, is I let them work, but like eventually they get tired, and it's understandable if you're like 8 years old and I'm making you do like math problems. You eventually like 20 minutes of that and your brain does start to just wander.
Yeah.
And the way I handle that is like they ask me questions, and if they're academic enough in nature, it doesn't matter the topic, social science, English, math, I'll answer them, and then they'll of course ask other questions. And as long as the questions stay academic, I continue to answer them for a certain point until like I've satisfied a bit of their curiosity, and I'm like, all right, that's enough. Go back to work.
Yeah.
And doing it that way really does allow them to learn more. And so I think that's the thing with the way I would do it with my kids is like eventually after a certain point of like grunt work, I would allow them to pick topics. If my kid like one day comes up to me and he's like, I'm actually really interested in engineering, I'd be like, okay, well, actually currently I know fuck all about engineering, but I'd be like, okay, we can learn it together, but like, as long as
engineering,
I was like, just bring Harry in, quick master
or
class.
I could just send him Harry's way. But the main thing would be I just make sure they set a target before they start learning anything. I'd be like, okay, by the end of like your journey with this, you need to do something. Like you need to show something for it. Engineering is actually pretty easy. You can have them like have a target of like making something. Or like if they're really interested, if they decide they're really interested in music, it's like, okay, well, find me a piece that you'd like to play, and then like I will buy you like all the equipment to start learning this stuff and everything. But that is contingent on the fact that like if you want to move on to another hobby, before you move on, you gotta like play me that piece. So like if they're like, I really want to do keyboard, and then they're like, okay, well, like give me a piece that they really want to say. It's like Duel of the Fates or something. That's a little hardcore. But
see, I thought about this exact line of thinking too, because I know what you're doing right now is trying to have our kids avoid becoming us, where you just let them pick up hobbies and then throw them away.
Yeah,
I'm not having them avoid it as much as I'm having them Like, I just want them to get to a point where they don't pick something up and give up before it gets hard. Yeah. I want them to go past that hurdle. And once they've passed that hurdle, if they still just get bored, fine, move on. I don't care. Yeah. But I think the main thing is I don't want my kids to be quitters.
Yeah. Like I agree. I just think I would still do like, or if I had children and I had full control over myself as well, I would probably still just keep it a balance and then hope that the discipline that they learn on the other side of it would also apply to the things that they want to achieve in the future. Because I do think there is value to literally making them go through the motions, but I think at the same time, if you do that, they just get exposed to a lot less hobbies and they might not end up running across something that they're actually interested in because they keep getting forced to follow the current one to the end, not the end, but like to a certain level where they end up not spending as much time exploring other things. So I mean, I think it is there's no right answer, but the way I would do it is I think I would just try to do the balance and hope that it works. And if it doesn't work,
but so that's my counterpoint to that is, what if they end up really liking? What if there's a hobby that they'd end up really liking, but they give up like near the beginning because they never passed that hurdle. Like, they never got past the point where it gets... Like, think of violin, for example. The beginning curve for that shit is hella hard.
Yeah.
So it's like, what if they start... They like, learn a little bit, but they never, like, get past the beginner level. Like, once they get intermediate, like, if they still decide, nah, this isn't for me, that's whatever. But I feel like you can't really decide if it's for you until you hit intermediate level.
I agree with that sentiment, but I also think a big part of that is the personality of the person involved. Because I think there's some level of that where you just cannot control that. Like, I think there are just going to be people who are like more like good at like looking further into something and being like, okay, this kind of sucks right now, but I'm going to be able to do it in the future. And then there are people who just immediately give up on something. And I think, like, yes, obviously parenting has a huge impact on that, and that's why I do want to have discipline as well. But I do think that you can't fully control a child and make sure that they find something, because as much as that is something that I would also want for my kid, I also think that is a little bit wishful, because I don't think if it was that easy. Basically what I'm saying is there's no way this idea has not come up before, and if it was that easy, I think everyone would be doing it. But I think, like, just the way that human beings work, it's just not really possible to control things that well. And also because there's so many possible hobbies and things to do in this world, like, ultimately people are going to accidentally skip over stuff that they might have actually been able to pursue, and they might just never come across something that they might be interested in. So that's why, like, for me, I'm just hoping for like a shotgun spread where just like hopefully they chance upon something that hits them hard enough that they're like, this is something that I want to pursue, even if it's a little painful at the beginning, and then just hope that the self-discipline helps motivate them a little bit past that point. But
all right, I guess this kind of segues into will you force music down their throats when they're a kid?
Me?
You know, like Asians,
specifically,
not general Asians,
just in general. I guess Asians,
because it's
do
like
that.
You know, I did, you know, violin, piano, sax. You did violin, flute, and piano.
I would introduce them.
And then, I think Adash did. I mean, I think Adash, yours was kind of by choice.
Kinda and kinda not. So how it happened was when I was like young, we had like, I think during a wedding, I sang during like the wedding, and like everyone was like, you should put him in singing lessons. He could be good. He could be like
Honestly,
really good.
Thinking of the time when Adash was good at singing.
Okay.
And so we did that. They put me in singing lessons, and it was just really unpleasant because I was like the youngest kid there by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we switched teachers, and then like I learned a little bit there, but I was just like my mom put me there, and I was like interested for the first 2 classes, and then after that I was like, this is so boring, because it's the same thing with like, imagine, for example, right? You started off learning keyboard by just learning songs you enjoyed, and then you had to go back to learning the classical way.
The basics, yeah.
By like going through arpeggios and scales
that's
and shit.
the worst way to approach any instrument. That
it
destroys
so
your motivation, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the same thing that happened with music. Because I wanted to do like pop songs, because like those are the songs I enjoyed. But then they put me in fucking classical music. So like, I like now that I'm older, I understand why. Because if you train in the classical way, it's not about learning to sing classical songs. It's about training your vocal cords,
the skills to then branch
so
out
that
to
you
any
can
other
So you have a vocal range essentially.
Right.
But I didn't fucking understand that at 6 years old. Like, how was I supposed to get that? So I just got bored.
I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite here because I went on that whole spiel just now, but then like as a musician and as someone who's seen like literally hundreds of kids go through this exact experience of being forced to do it, and then other kids who weren't forced to do it but then have no motivation, it's like at the end of the day I really don't know if I can answer this question because like all the facts that are presented in front of my eyes disprove the way that I wish that I could do it, which is the way I wish I could do it is that I don't force them to do any of these things, but I immerse them in it so much that hopefully they gain an interest. And then like at some point I would have to sort of follow Adash's way of just being like, okay, if you want to do this, you have to commit. Like you can't just try everything. Just
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying I sound like a hypocrite because I said, but it's like at the same time, it's like that I still don't really think that works necessarily. Just because like they're children at the end of the, I've seen so many children. It's like no matter how logical your process is, they are children at the end of the day, and none of this is going to really work. So it's
that's why
what I've seen consistently work with children is like, and myself really, is you kind of do have to force them to do things that they don't want to do, like music and stuff, because like at a later point they have the choice to, and I think it's good to give them that choice to abandon it, but also they have so many more options open to them later in life because they were forced to do that thing. So it's like right, this is literally my life right now. It's like I really want to get into music composition and I'm full diving into that right now. But it's like I wouldn't even have a remote chance of pursuing that if it wasn't for all the violin that I was completely forced to do from day one. There was not a single day of violin that was self-motivated. Like from day one to every single practice session, every single day, it was fully forced. And it's like at the time it was miserable and I was like always blaming my mom for that. But it's like nowadays, like I have to be grateful for that because those skills are totally carrying through with like composition and any other musical endeavor I pursue.
Yeah, I
feel like it's just like I want to say no, but the results do kind of show themselves here.
Yeah, I feel for certain instruments it's very rare for the kid to be self-motivated to practice and all that kind of stuff.
It's just impossible because it's such a like violin it's an insurmountable wall. There's no kid who has enough passion for something that they could actually pursue it. Like
that's exactly why I said it my way. Like you have to get them to. You have to basically drill it in their head. But unless you can get past the suckiness, it never gets better. So if you force them to do it every time, then it kind of settles in their head, I think.
But like, how are you forcing them though? Because what if they're just like, no? What if they just say they don't want to do it?
No, because here's how it works with every kid. They see somebody do something cool. They go, I want to do that. And then they bug you about it. They're like, I'm really interested in this, mom and dad. I want to do it. And then you know what happens? You put them in a class for it. And the beginning levels are never what they envision because they immediately think they're going to be like the next musical aficionado.
Of course.
Without
they want to get to the result right away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. I'm going to be like, okay, if we start this, the thing is going to be like the beginning few classes, you don't get a choice. If you go to the first class, you're going until you hit like 10, 15. For music, it'd be even higher than that. A lot of hobbies, I would let them quit earlier because a lot of hobbies, it's like you can figure out within it. Getting from beginner to intermediate at a lot of things does not take much effort. But music takes a lot of effort. Universally, I don't think, unless you're just inclined, I don't think any child within like 5-6 lessons of any instrument is even like a beginner level. Yeah. Like they just suck.
Yeah, no.
It takes like 20 classes before they can play basic songs consistently.
Mm-hmm. So I think though with this method though, like if you do that, then like if they do have to commit to every hobby that they pick up, they just end up like locked into those things. Like Because like, let's say your example of like, oh, the kid sees someone plays piano and then they're like, oh, I want to play piano. And then you then force them to continue playing piano for a few years. It's like, those are many years where they're just being forced to do something where it could pay off or it could also not. And they could have also missed out.
So that's what I think that's where the miscommunication is happening here. I'm not saying I'm going to make them do it for years. This is when I say like you're picking up a hobby, we're talking like a span of a couple months. I'm saying you can't pick it up and then drop it the next day.
But I feel like a couple months is never enough to get to the point where it starts to become enjoyable again. Like no skill, you're going to become, in a couple months, you're going to get to the point where you're like, this is actually really cool. Because it just takes way longer than that for the vast majority of skills, in my experience.
Okay.
Like it usually takes several years, I think, to get to the, because like I didn't start appreciating, and I know violin is not the best example because it's one of the most difficult starting points of it, but like I didn't start appreciating my violin skill until like 7 or 8 years into my craft, because like that was when I was finally able to play anything that I wanted to, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually kind of dope.
but that's what I mean is music is different, because think about swimming. It takes 2 months. I guarantee it. Like within 2 months, you go from not knowing what the fuck you're doing to being able to swim around. But if you actually enjoy the feeling, you will.
Well, this isn't about like, just.
But that's what I'm saying. If that's the case, then what if what if they choose music, or not even just music, but like you said, all these things are different. But what if it's one of these things that takes a very long time to start paying off, but you only force them to do it for a few months, and they maybe would have actually wanted to do that the rest of their life, but they got off of it, right? So that's why I'm just saying, like, I don't disagree with your method, and I actually would use a lot of points of it. I just don't think it's as easy as you're sort of laying it out.
Well, yeah. So obviously, like what I mentioned earlier is like it is flexible. It's not like a set thing, because like music, music is the most complicated part of this. Because I think any sport, I think you really only need to give 2 months.
I don't even think music. I think art, just any art, takes a lot of investment.
Art forms in general. I can agree with that. Yeah. But like most sports, I don't think are that difficult. Any like other hobby, I can't think of any. My mind is blanking. But I definitely have examples of things that like I've been interested in that if I just like committed to for like an extra month, I think I would have like kept going just because like
I guess like what, arts and crafts.
That's still art, but like cooking. Debating, like any of those things that you would do in like school, like for clubs and stuff.
All right, well, the biggest transitioning on to probably one of the biggest things.
Just to conclude, I don't think me or Adash is wrong here because we are debating, but
there's no right answer.
There isn't a right answer, and I think
there's
elements,
wrong answers, but no right answer.
Right, and I think elements of what we're saying are true from what I'm hearing from both sides of it. I think it's just a different approach. So
it's I think Adash's idea is very optimistic in my opinion. I just don't see it being as easily implemented by the average Joe. Like you have to really know what you're doing to do that.
Maybe it's just because like as a teacher, I've had a lot of shitty students, but it's just like it's like I've tried a lot of things to like try to help them. And some kids, it's just like, man, you try everything you can in your power to help them, and they just are not going to be helped. Okay, and it is their parents' fault. It is their parents' fault. Like if I was their parent, I would have more control. But I do think there are some kids that are just like it's just so hard.
So I should say I'm optimistic in the sense I expect my kid, maybe I am just wrong in this, but I'm going off the assumption they learn at the rate I did. And if they don't, then all of this has to change. Because if it takes them significantly longer to pick up things than I did, I do have to change how I approach these things. Yeah. Because, I mean, they are just working from a disadvantage if they're average.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
Moving on. We barely got through half the topics.
It's okay.
Ah, shit. All right. So this is going to be a big, interesting one because, you know, when we grew up, technology really started slowly getting incorporated, but now technology is like a staple. And
I think we're going to agree on this one, I think.
Yeah.
I think
so with technology, I guess we got phones and computers.
Well, Harry, you go first this time.
Phones and computers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, see, I already told Banana this. We're going to have so many computers. But my thing about that is it's definitely going to be regulated. You're going to only get so much playtime throughout the week. Weekends, as long as things are taken care of, it's your choice to either spend it outside or spend on a computer. But, you know, it's kind of your choice as long as your chores or anything.
Yeah,
So now-
You are
I think that's
leaving
the
the
one
Asian parent. You're letting them
That's-
spend their weekend
that-
on the computer. Oh my god!
I mean,
I
that was one
agree.
thing
I agree.
I
I'm just
think-
saying that's crazy.
Like as a kid, it's you can only do so much outside. Especially like I don't know, like now when I look outside, you barely see kids play. I mean, granted, there's not a lot of kids in our neighborhood anymore.
Also Corona, but yeah.
I guess that was a big thing as well.
Yeah.
But like now, most people don't give a fuck about Corona, like two shits.
True.
And it's like I don't know. It's one of those things where now it doesn't seem like in person meetings, like unless you're doing like sports or some other stuff like that, is as popular. And I rarely see like driving around, see people outside playing like that.
Yep.
So I'm just like, I mean, computers.
Actually, now that you mentioned all this, my stance on this is changing. Because I was going to say, like, I don't think I would have allowed my kids to do, like, whatever they want on the weekends. I think I'd force them to get outside. Then I was like, you are kind of... I mean, in my neighborhood, there definitely are kids playing outside. And my mom always tries to get my brother to go, and he just doesn't because he's, like, shy. I try to get him to go as well. And so I was like, I would actually want my kid to not, like, spend their day inside. I would want them to go outside. And, like, what if that's just not an option? What if, like, I'm in a neighborhood where... Because I think that's actually likelier than the other. I think the way we grew up, we were the final era.
We're the last stand.
Our generation, like growing up,
real life socialization.
Yeah, no, like we had some, like it was just normal just to go outside and play with kids. Kids would just walk up to your door, like,
neighbors.
Hey, is so here?
Yeah.
And just the actual like neighbor type deal was a lot.
There wasn't the community was a real word back then.
Yeah. Now it's just kind of like, you know, passing, like the people I know, I only know because we had small events when one of my neighbors was here, because he like made it so the street, like small events for the street for people to come out. Granted, not everyone always showed up, but like the people who did, we were consistently. But now that he moved away, you know, we don't really do shit like that. Maybe New Year's and 4th of July for fireworks, we'll, you know, the same group of people will crowd out, but it's like we used to like stand, you know, be over at his place, you know, it's across the street from me, and I mean we all live on the same street, so it's just, you know, 2-minute walk. So, you know, sit in his place and drink beers and shit. But it's like now
this isn't about
shit.
This isn't about kids, so this is a full derail. But like, just to relate to that, it's like back when I was a kid, our little cul-de-sac, every single person in this cul-de-sac knew each other very well. And like constantly met up, like talks every time they see each other outside, plays tennis together, like goes to events. Like we knew the kids of the other neighbors. Like we weren't like the best of friends, but like you're still very well acquainted with them. Like, so everyone has moved out because they're all retiring and all their kids are adults now. So now we have all new neighbors in the cul-de-sac, and we like never talk to anyone anymore. Like they have kids, we don't really know their kids, they're just there. And they're like awkward too, like they don't like my dad and mom are both very social people, so like when they see them they try to strike up conversations, and like these young people are just like and then they walk back into their house. And I'm like, god damn,
it's,
like,
this is definitely
generation.
derailed from the technology talk. It's like the new neighbors that moved into, like when my old neighbors moved out, like, granted, I could have gone up and said hi or some shit, but it's like not a word, no nothing. Like,
I've actually only had this experience in America, because I had the same experience as you guys, knowing kids. It wasn't like cul-de-sac for me. It was like 2 different streets of kids that would just like all converge on the same park, and then we'd play games. But as soon as I got here, that was the starkest difference, is nobody ever went outside. I went to the park. Like, the first day I could, I was like, okay, I'll just go to the park, and like I'll just try to talk to the kids and see if I can get into a game. Because that's just what you do in India. It's like, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you go to, you find the local park, and there's kids playing something. And if you're like, can I join? I've never heard a case where they say no. So you just join and you play. Like, the only case they say no is if there's a stark age difference and you're at the worst end of it. Like, if you're the younger one, by a margin, they'll be like, yeah, a little young to be playing with us, kiddo. But anyway, I went to the park, fucking empty.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And it never really changed. The only kid I met was a complete jackass. I kind of wish I'd laid his ass out, because like I don't remember what he said. He insulted me. He was like, I think he was like 2 grades younger. I was like, I was a lot softer back then, but
All right. Well, to steer us back on topic,
let
me talk about my.
We're gonna let our kids on COD and insult people on there.
let me talk about my view on technology. So I think I'm definitely on the side, like, as someone who's a huge lover of technology, I am fully on the side of hell no. Like I've just seen too many results of children with technology, and it's never good. I haven't seen a single child who has benefited from the technology more than it's harmed them in my experience. Like, every single kid I see with a smartphone or with an iPad or with free access to a computer is just like full out of it, like rude, like plays games all the time. Like, it's so bad. And I'm just like, I think there is a way to use technology in a very productive way. And I think that way is monitoring, because I think, like, I'm not going to seclude my children from technology because I think it's an intrinsic part of our world. And of course I love it too. And there's a lot of things to be gained from it. And also, I'm a big believer in the more you try to stop people from doing something, the more likely they're going to find a way to do it. So I wouldn't ban it, because there's no way that would work. But because of course, like, also schools use computers now, so they would just do it there. So what I would do is I would just always make sure I'm there too, because I know, like, no matter how many parent filters you put on the internet, it's the internet. Like, they're gonna find something, or they're just gonna play a game in Fortnite and people are gonna be cussing and saying obscene things. So it's like, I'm gonna be right next to them the whole time, but I'm not gonna be like the annoying adult who just doesn't let them do stuff. I'm also gonna be like interacting with the kid and also showing them cool things that I think are cool, and hopefully trying to make it an experience of, like, not like I'm stopping you from doing technology, but like I'm here, like, guiding you through how to use technology in a way that doesn't make you like the rest of these kids who are all on their smartphones and getting into TikTok when they're like 8. So
maybe you're a better parent than me, but that sounds like way too much work.
It absolutely is. And once again, everything I'm saying, I need to underline, everything I'm saying is the ideal way that I hope that I parent. It's definitely not a realistic translation of what's going to happen, because I don't think I have the ability to pull off everything that I want to. But this is like my, like, dream world. I hope that I do these things.
I'm going realistic, and realistically, they will encounter things on the internet. It will happen. My only hope is just that I want it to be a difference, because, like, I've had friends who are close with their parents, and the internet doesn't fuck them up as much, because when they encounter something, they go to their parents, and their parents don't immediately, they don't respond with, why did you look that up? Why did you find that? No more technology. They don't punish you. They help you instead to understand.
Yeah, there's a certain level of, like, if you parent your child well, then you can probably trust them even on a dangerous place like the internet. But I still think I would mostly monitor everything, because as someone who's delved very deeply into the internet, I know just how far it can go in a wrong direction. Like, it does not matter how good the kid is. It does not really matter how many filters there are. There are just so many things on the internet that are easy to access for everybody that are just not okay. And, like, I would not be okay with them seeing, regardless if they understood it or tried to talk to me about it. It's just not okay for them to see. So I still think I would monitor it. And I don't even think that's that unrealistic, because I wouldn't let them just use the computer whenever they want. I would give them, like, an hour a day, and I would just monitor it with them, which is not that hard to do.
I was thinking more of, like, I plan to play games throughout my adulthood, so it's like I would probably incorporate that, like, as a bonding time with a kid, because that was one thing. It's like, also, well, this is probably going to be another topic. This is another topic I have is, it's that parent-child relationship, and you gotta maintain it in a way. But we'll touch up on that later.
Along the same vein of technology, also just like a quick note about phones. I am not getting my child a smartphone until they are, like, an acceptable level of maturity, and if that takes them getting to, like, 15 years old, then so be it, because, like, social media is not in a good place right now. It is in a terrible place right now. And I do not want my kid to get sucked into that. Like, I managed to avoid that, but because of this, and this is what I'm gonna do too, is that my parents got me a flip phone, so it's like I wasn't totally isolated. I could still text people, I could still call people, but I had a flip phone, and I was totally okay with it. I didn't feel inferior to other people because of my flip. I actually kind of flexed my flip phone on people, because I was like, bro, you have to charge your phone every day. My phone lasts like a week.
Greg, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a you thing.
I know. But I regardless of whether they liked it or not, I'm still only giving them a flip phone until they're ready to handle like social media and stuff.
There are now
crazy.
touch. I would get them a phone that doesn't look like non-functional. I would get them a phone that is very restricted functionality wise. Texting, calls, and music I will allow.
Yeah, well, you can do that on flip phones.
Yeah. But I also, as somebody who's had a flip phone and was like super embarrassed and like hated my father for giving me one, because I just felt the need to hide it consistently, I would make sure to give them a phone that like they don't need to hide as much, especially if I'm giving it to them in like upper end of middle school, because by then most people have smartphones.
Yeah, I'm not succumbing to societal pressure on that. I'm giving my kid a flip phone.
Great
you can do that, but no,
I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe once again, me personally didn't like the flip phone, but like, is that really something that is that like worthy of them getting a smartphone just because it's not cool? Because like I did so many things that were not cool when I was a kid. I wore like weird clothing all the time, and it's like bullying doesn't really exist the way that people. That is true, but that's why I'm saying it's like a lot of that is just like, at least okay, maybe it depends on the environment, but in my environment, like there wasn't pressure about that sort of stuff. Like no one ever made fun of me for my flip phone. No one ever made fun of me for my weird clothing or the weird things that I did.
Okay,
but I guess the thing with that is like this is the other thing is you succumb to that kind of like societal pressure and you're just gonna fold like that. I don't know. I'm sorry. This is a little tangent. I'm like your parenting method has been very flip floppy to me. You're gonna be so involved with the whole music and education, but then for technology. You're like, well, Greg's thing is too much work, but like your education and methodology for the music learning and just general youth nourishment is also extremely tedious, and I would argue probably more than just basic.
So then imagine having to stack both.
But like it's not like the technology I think is very minimal compared if you're doing the nourishment. If you can tie it hand in hand with the education, and then with the phone one. You're just gonna fold, Chief? Come on!
What the fuck?
I don't know.
Again,
I feel like that's such a trivial topic.
I'm not giving them a smartphone. I'm giving them a phone like a flip phone. It's just the method of presentation is different. There are phones out there that don't have access to internet or anything else, but they are just a touchscreen phone. That was the only thing. So it's essentially a flip phone in terms of functionality, but it looks like a smartphone.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, but I still like.
But I mean,
if my kid has to deal with a little bit of pressure because they have a flip phone and all their friends have smartphones, I think it's a good thing.
That's when you teach the kid cuss
we
words.
differ on that
because I'm like, I mean, you either have your child like always succumbing to societal pressure about everything, or at some point you let them understand that like they don't have to do the same thing everyone else is doing. Like, I know that's not what you're saying, but I think like if you're going to maybe not fold like Harry's saying, but if you're going to like let like that little amount of pressure influence a change like that, I think it teaches a kid the wrong lesson possibly in terms of like
I disagree because what it does is it just encourages them to go around you, and that's what I like
with a flip
all
phone?
of my
how though
no like trying to restrict or monitor their usage isn't going to work the way you think it is, I think.
Because, no, but I literally brought this up though. It's like, and I think that, like I said, if you leave no path to finding something, that they're going to inevitably find a way around it. But I don't think a flip phone is a good example of that, because it's like, how are they supposed to access social media if they can't on their flip phone? Like it's literally, there's no way around that really. And it's like, I'm not gonna like completely shut them off from understanding what that is. I'm going to talk to them about it, but I'm also going to, because like in my life, like there have been instances of both. There have been instances of restrictions causing more pressure and causing me to find a way around it that was unhealthy for me. But there have been plenty of instances of restrictions that were good for me. And the flip phone was a good part. Like I will say, I keep saying that like I was happy with it. That was something I grew into. When I first got a flip phone, I wasn't happy because everyone else had smartphones. Obviously, it's like, oh, I want a smartphone too. So I was like, oh man, I have a flip phone. But like eventually I found the happiness in that. It was like, you know, all the music that I could get on it, and then like downloading movies and stuff to my phone too, and then just texting all my friends all the time and just like making
homie could text
and stuff.
Yeah,
so it's
I
like,
had a flip phone the entire time. You know, all that I learned from that? Hate. Nothing more. The reason I bring this up is because all it does is it creates animosity between the kid and the parent. If they grow to hate the phone, it serves as a way to bring animosity. And if it does that, they stop going to me for things.
But there's always
that. I feel that is a very
be,
extreme view that can be prevented by certain rules, regulations.
And there's always going to be like you can't prevent animosity.
That is such a downward spiral.
You can't. I mean, look, I do have an answer for this that's more, I think, appropriate. But I don't think you can prevent animosity between like there's going to be decisions that you make that they're just not going to accept, and they're never going to accept for several years until they finally understand like what I mean. It's like what we were talking about before, where it's like there are some concepts that are just impossible to teach to a child. Like no matter how smart, no matter how talented, no matter how good you are at teaching it, like there are concepts that they just do not understand without enough life experience. And it's like decisions that are based on that, like a concept, they're not going to be able to understand, and you won't be able to justify to them. So at some level, you're just going to have to force them to accept it, and they're just not going to like it. And then eventually, but I think there's like a level where, yes, you can go too far, but I think there's also a level that's appropriate where it's like, they don't like it, but they don't despise you for it. Because for the most part, you're still warm and compassionate and help them with stuff. But I think the real answer to this is just environment, because I think we have very different environments growing up, clearly. And I think in an environment like you're describing, my method wouldn't really work as well, and it could result in a lot more tension between the kid and the parent. Whereas like in my environment, I think your method is probably too extra, but in your environment, I think it could work based on the circumstance. Because it's just because I did like you were shocked about that, but I don't think it's that crazy for kids these days to not be bullied about stuff like that. Like obviously there's some level of I had kids in my school that were being bullied for being weird, but it was like stuff like picking their nose and eating it and like doing nasty shit.
Okay, well,
it wasn't.
You need to get bullied for that.
It wasn't. Okay, like it was elementary school, okay, but it was like, and it was like those kids like were the ones that were bullied, but like people who were just weird or different, they barely ever got bullied, and sometimes they weren't bullied at all. Sometimes people were just like, oh, that's cool.
What? So when you say you're giving your kid a flip phone, what age are we talking here?
I don't think
Is
they
it
really
middle or high school.
I don't think they really need a phone until late middle school, and I wouldn't change it into a smartphone. This is a moot
point. I'd give them a flip phone if they're like elementary. I'm talking in like middle school onward.
But I even in middle school, I would still have them use a flip phone, and even most of the years in high school, I think I would still keep them on a flip phone. Definitely not 11th and 12th grade. I think, but 9th and 10th grade, I would keep them on a flip phone. I would say because that's pretty much the path.
I would give them a full access phone 9th grade. I think by that
I wouldn't do that. 9th graders are dumb as fuck, bro. 9th graders would fall into the social media hole, and that would make puberty like a million times worse for them.
I don't think 16 or 11th graders are like that different either. I think you gotta break it at some point, and I think by 9th grade, if you haven't, I don't know. I think my thinking is it's like you gotta let them go at some point, and I would personally rather earlier than later. Because I want them to find like themselves earlier rather than later.
I just don't think children are capable of that, especially teenagers. Like I still see people in college who are still like consumed by social media, and it's a lot of them. It's because they just got exposed to it too early and never had I think it's always going to be better to approach those situations in a better mindset than because like puberty, that's like your weakest mindset. Like as a human being, that's when you're at your most vulnerable, and social media is like perfect for taking advantage of vulnerability. And that's why it's like, I just can't like giving someone access to something that could hurt them that much in their most vulnerable state just seems counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Social media is one of those things, especially like in middle school and stuff, that it either goes really well, like us, we barely do shit with it, and it, we don't give a fuck about it, or like you turn
But it's
into
like I wouldn't call us people
where,
who use social media, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Snapchat's not social media.
I occasionally will browse it just for shits and giggles to pass time.
Yeah, same.
But
same.
like we're not sitting here posting something every day trying to get clout or attention for it because that's what we're addicted to. And that is a more extreme case and yada yada, but.
I mean, like I said before, though, I do think environment plays a strong factor into it because based on the child, I think some of them definitely can. I have students that are younger than the ages I'm talking about that I totally think could handle a smartphone. But then there are kids that not that I teach, but like people that I've met that are like 23 and they should not be using a smartphone. Like people whose lives are being ruined constantly by the fact that they're using a smartphone at their age. And
but that's what I mean is, I mean, I say ninth grade now, but it would all change based on the child, and like you said, it's maturity level.
It's maturity level.
But like, I don't think it matters like when you give it to them as much as it matters like if you've taught them enough that they can figure it out on their own.
But I don't think,
like you said,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's some people that are like our age that like you give it to them now, like even if they didn't have it till now, they get it, and then they're still like awful. They still get sucked in. Yeah. And then there's kids that are a lot younger that can still get it and handle it. Because, I don't know, like maybe my thing is just like, I just remember like, like what happens when a kid that's ultra sheltered gets like access to things later in life. Like usually this happens in college, right? Is somebody goes up hella sheltered and they go to college where they have freedom. And they just go fucking crazy because they don't understand how to regulate freedom.
I think you're looking at extremes again, though, because like I'm not gonna ultra shelter my child. Like I know. A flip phone is ultra sheltering. I think it's just slightly less functional than a smart. Like there's not that many more things you can do on a smartphone than a flip phone. It's like take better quality pictures and get games and like social media. That's why it's just like it's just the social media aspect of
browse the internet in general. It's way faster.
Well, we're having
but they can still use computers. That's why I'm saying it's not like they're not touching YouTube or the internet. Like they still get access
smart
to
TVs.
it. Yeah. It's just they don't get access to it 24/7 when they should be sleeping or when they should be doing other things.
No, but that's what I'm saying is like when you have like a phone, like the amount of time you get to spend on the internet and stuff, it does increase drastically. And I think if you don't learn to moderate that, or if you don't learn like what I'm, maybe I just think about extremes too much, but like I'm just thinking like, if you start with a flip phone to like most of your life, like, and what happened to me is like I got a phone. And I could not get off the thing. Like, I literally, every waking moment where I, like, had free time by myself and I didn't have anything else to do, I'd just be on my phone. I'd either be, like, playing games, watching YouTube, anything else. And it's, like, the laptop, like, and I still had laptop time. Like, it's not like I had no access. It was just a flip phone. I had laptop time. Yeah. But what happened was as soon as I got, like, a smartphone, it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm in school, I'm in class, I still have access to the internet. Boom! I'm watching videos instead of paying attention.
Like I guess it's also child personality, but then I'm like, I don't know if like for you, I feel it's also like you always want to escape from reality, and you're still looking for that escape from the shitty lifestyle. So it's like as soon as you got it, you just went to it, and you saw everyone's had the good life, so you're like, shit, I'm gonna take advantage of this as much as you can. But I'm trying to think like I didn't really have a smartphone until like high school either.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, so that's why I just I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. Actually, I just think the once again it just comes down to the concept of like children. Like I think you are maybe overestimating actually a little bit how much people are going or like how much teenagers can control themselves and like understand those concepts, because I just think like in that period of someone's life, I think that's the least effective time for them to try to learn those lessons. Like I think those lessons need to be learned, and I don't really think it's possible as a child because there's not much societal pressure as a child. Like children don't place that sort of pressure on each other because they're all children. They just care about curiosity. So like that's not even something that's applicable at that point. Like nobody cares about anything at that point. Like when stuff starts to get super societal pressury is like the late middle school, high school period. And I feel like that's like when people are most susceptible to falling into that hole of trying to fit in with everything else, even if it means damaging themselves. And I think social media is the biggest amplifier for that instinct. That's why I'm just like, I think like if the child proves that they are mature enough to handle it, then sure, they can have it like, you know, earlier than any of the times I'm saying. But I think like my default is if a child doesn't seem ready for a smartphone, they don't get a smartphone. And I don't think that's bad for them because I think eventually they will get to a point where they're in a position where they're a little bit more stable and less like concerned about what everyone else thinks. And then if they then get a phone at that point in their life, then they're not as susceptible to falling into the hole of, you know, I must be cool on social media and get clout and stuff.
See, maybe this is just different because because you were talking about like when pressures amplify for children, right? And like maybe it's just because I didn't experience it the way most people do. Like pressures for me as like a kid didn't amplify then. They amplified like starting middle school. But that's not even like that's because of my unique situation. So maybe that's why my view is extremely different.
That's what I was saying. The real answer isn't that you're wrong. It's just environment. Because like in your situation, I have no doubt that any other kid, like I don't think my approach would work for them because it would just make them bitter, like you're talking about. So I do think it is mostly environment. It's not even about the kid's personality specifically. It's just environment. Like in the environment that I hope to create for my child, I don't think they'll need a smartphone until like the times that I'm talking about. But if like somehow it does get to the point where they're like uber sort of vulnerable already, then I think at that point decisions do have to change based on that. So
okay, I concede.
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
I didn't know that was going to be such a contentious point, but
I think it kind of just shows how different we were, you know, our environments where we're raised and how it really.
This is why I'm saying I should never have a kid. I would not be a good parent.
I think we're all talking from personal experience. So
yeah,
none of us really have the right to be like our way is right because it's just like us being like this is how we were parented. So
yeah, I think one thing, Adash, if you do decide to, you know, ever have kids, is you have to have a more like before you actually have a kid, you definitely need to make sure you have a more open mindset and not restrict things to just your childhood, because it's just like, you know, me and my younger sister, I mean, granted there's like a 4-year difference between us, but realistically we were raised in a very similar household, and that we weren't raised, we did on our own. Right. It's like a very different way, you know, we're very different in people, and that's the one thing. It's like, granted you're a kid, but they're going to be very different probably from you, especially in this day and age. And I mean, that's my one thing. I mean, that applies. You really gotta keep
all
that
of
in
us
mind
as well, like because like my environment is definitely a lot of the things that I'm talking about are speaking from the privilege of like stable financial situations, living in a
like nice,
if you don't have the luxury to spend like so a lot of the things I'm saying about like, you know, having these things unlimited but limited through making sure that their interactions happen through me, that only works if I have that much time to spend with my children. And the only reason why that comes up for me is because my parents had that much time to spend with me. So I have all these views on these things because, and this will come up soon actually, but it's like for me, like my parents literally like were always there, always, like for every single thing that I did. And that was not like a crutch for me. That was actually something that empowered me a lot and also helped me make better decisions later in life. So so I think like definitely people are not like, if you have a job that doesn't allow you to spend that much time with your kid, then a lot of the concepts I'm talking about, as nice as they sound, just don't work from a realistic standpoint. So it is, once again, always just going to come down to environment and situation.
Yeah. Based on the time, we'll probably do one more topic, and then if we want to do a little free flow, we can, but at the rate we're going. Let's see. I guess this will tie in to teenagehood, and my thing what added to this was like socialization in teenage. Mainly I'm talking about post elementary school. You're talking 6th grade and early high school before they get a driver's license. Both this is I guess this is going to involve the whole both a little bit of mental health and also socialization, as in, you know, taking your kids out to places with other friends and stuff like that.
I'm gonna be that parent. Anytime my kid wants to go anywhere, long as they give me enough go ahead, I'm gonna drive them wherever the fuck they want.
I'm in total agreement with that, because that was one thing I didn't get a chance for that. And so I'm like, I feel like I missed out on so much. During
until you basically started driving me places, I never went out with friends because I couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, and we went everywhere we could because.
Because of that. I'm in agreement. I mean, thankfully I did have that privilege. Like, my parents just took me everywhere that I wanted to go, whether it was with friends or anything else, and it was good. So I'm gonna.
You know what I'm learning, Greg? I'm learning why you were able to forgive.
This was. I literally have a whole paragraph explaining this at the very end, like with the whole thesis statement and everything about like how it's common for people to ask me like, how could you forgive your parents after what happened? And it's like, you have to understand just how amazing my childhood was, and even after Star Guides, like, they actually, or at least my mom specifically, but they learned their lessons from that, which is something that I know most human beings would not do. And that, like, just the fact that they actually learned those lessons is like insane, and that's like a big part in how I'm just like I'm very lucky about that.
Nah, bro, your dad is like, I'll do it again. I'll send you right now,
bro. They couldn't even if they wanted to. I'm over 18 now.
Yeah, no. They'll double down. He's like, I'll double down.
You'll have to go the illegal route if you want to kidnap me again this time.
No, yes. Bro, if your dad did that, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, really? you didn't learn the first time, old man? No. I would highly doubt that your dad would be like, and I'd do it again.
No. Definitely no.
All right, well, that was a pretty quick one. We were all in agreement. That's probably the first one we were like really all.
I mean, that one's just obvious. Just be a good parent.
Yeah,
that one, I mean, there is a right answer.
The people who don't do that, you just see the results constantly. Like, people who aren't letting or helping their kids get through that time period, it's just like, it's just not good. It's just really not good.
I mean, granted, if you're like in those households where it's like both parents have to work.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's difficult. But like, if you have a stay-at-home parent and you're not taking your kids places, you know, granted with actual ahead of prep and stuff,
right? I
feel like, what are you really doing your job as a stay-at-home parent?
Well, if I have no time, I'm just gonna hire. Sorry, this is quick. I'm just gonna buy them an Uber. They can just take Uber.
Yeah. All I will say is, in my mom's defense, the only reason she didn't is just because she didn't have a license at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take your kids somewhere if you don't have a license.
Yeah, right.
Then it's just illegal. But
she should have.
Most American parents.
She should have put you in a backpack and carried you there.
But I mean, besides that, I do agree. Like, if you have the means, you have the transport, and you just choose not to, you are just a bad parent.
Right.
Your job as a stay-at-home parent is to be a parent, and if you're not, that's
you hear this?
I think very vital.
You, this person who does this, fuck you. We hate you.
Yeah.
All my homies hate you.
To this deep, listening to this deep, and you're doing this shit.
You suck.
Fuck you. You suck dick. I hope your kid kicks you in the balls or
actually,
the
like,
coochie.
while we're on that topic, if your kid is 8 years old, and your method of parenting them is just to give them an iPad and let them, like, entertain themselves, fuck you.
Oh, yeah, no. I know for sure that's not what you were saying.
Eat shit.
I think we all agree when it comes to that. Like, no under 10-year-olds should have free access to a smart device.
Yeah, no, that's
like, what?
That's just lazy.
What? What is that?
It's just lazy.
There's so many
careless.
parents who do
argued back and forth with my parents on my brother getting, like, an hour of, extra, mobile device time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Mom, he goes from the Xbox to the laptop to the tablet. Why are you allowing this?
Homie's just hopping internet methods.
He's like, I only spent an hour on the iPad today. I also spent an hour on the TV, an hour on the PC, an hour on the...
Okay, but to be fair, my mom, like, he's most of the time on the laptop. At least he's doing something like he's reading, which technically isn't productive. But I'm okay with that. I'll forgive that. But like an hour on the Xbox is like, I only spent an hour on the Xbox. I'm like, but you're literally playing Minecraft Pocket Edition on the PC. On the iPad.
He's. I'll just pick this back up on my
iPad. Man. All right, with that, we're actually doing that. This will be the final one. I think this one probably be quick. Mm-hmm. How do you envision a parent-kid relationship? Like, how would you picture your...
If I want it to be, my kid could be 23 years old, living in their own apartment, but then they face, like, a tiny issue. Say, like, you know, like, one of their, like, bulbs went out or something, or, like, some tiny issue in their house that they don't know how to fix, and it's, like, 2 a.m., they still feel like they can call me for help.
Okay. Greg?
I think, for me... I will basically just want to do the exact same thing my parents did, which is just smother me in love and affection and privilege.
Oh, wow. And hire somebody to kidnap you and take
exactly,
you
Exactly. This is exactly where I was going with this. And then when they come back, I'm going to send them to military academy. And when they come back from that, I'm going to subtly influence them to send themselves to a place that they're going to be depressed the whole year. I'm kidding. No. Like I basically just want to do what my parents did for like the early, just a lot of like love going around, I think is the main thing. I know that sounds really sappy, but I think a very important part of why my family dynamic works well.
That's very,
is just it's not just like the love being there. It's like the reinforcement of it. Like I still call my parents mommy and daddy. I know you guys know that, but like that I still say that. And then like, we don't do this anymore, but we used to always kiss each other. And then we always say, I love you. Like it's not like, I think that reinforcement needs to be there to some level, at least like for me.
Greg's void of kisses from the family has
the main thing. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Now you understand. You guys are my daddies and my mommies.
Okay, no,
daddy.
Okay.
Anyway,
the
main difference that I would have in the thing that I hope to achieve the most between my child and myself is just communication. Like that's the big thing that I've been trying to improve in my life. It's just getting better at communication, because like the main fault of my family's dynamic is that the second we disagree on something, it just goes from 0 to 100. Like we just go from like calm to like scream battle, like just like the worst possible level of apocalypse of anger from every single side.
I shouldn't say me and my family. That's just me and my dad.
Yeah.
With my mom, it's like it didn't used to be that way when I was a teenager, because I was like angry all the time. Yeah. I think justifiably so. And like, but it never really lasts, because like my mom can't do it. Like if I go a week, there was this one time I remember we got into a huge argument. My mom was like, okay, and like we were just not talking to each other, and like. I don't actually remember what we were arguing. It was something stupid, but I do remember this is one of the few instances where like I actually would not concede. I was like, I'm actually correct here. And like, despite me not remembering what happened, I'm pretty sure like to this day, I do defend that I was in the right in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we went like a week without talking to each other, and like I was ready to drag this out, because I was like, not this time. I'm not conceding this time. But my mom couldn't. She was like, after a week, we just kind of got over it. Like, I don't think we ever apologized on that topic, but like, I don't think me and my mom can't stay mad at each other.
Yeah.
I can never stay mad at my brother past like half a day at most. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever, maybe even like once I've stayed mad at him for like half a day. Mm-hmm. And then besides that, it's just me and my, but yeah, communication is really important. I will say, though, the one thing we kind of glossed over, which is actually kind of important considering we're Asian kids, violence.
I was going to say, one of the categories here I didn't touch on was discipline, but I don't really think we have time for that. But we can just like give a quick opinion on yes violence, no violence.
I'm going to try to do no violence.
Yeah, also the only time I would ever hit my child is if they hit their mother.
Yeah. You touch your mother... You're gonna get the work.
Like that is like the one thing where I'm like, that's the one spot where I don't care if they feel like scared of me or whatever, they gotta know as soon as they do it once, never again.
Yeah.
And it won't be the way my dad's hit me, but it will be enough that they don't forget.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But Harry, do you want to conclude with your experience or your answer to your question?
The relationship. So yeah. I've never like been jealous about this, but it's one of those things that I was like, oh, this is really nice. Granted, they have their own flaws here and there with the whole relationship, but like Benea's family like dynamic, the way her parents are like, you're still like they still kid around and joke. They still can sit down and talk for like hours with each other, which I was like, to me, I was like, talk with your family for hours.
I know, right? I know, right?
And it's like one of those dynamics where it's like it's fun and cheery, and like granted, they have their moments where it's like, why the fuck are you, doing this and that and shit like this and that. It's like, you go from being great and then you have such low, but that's a whole different issue with that. I think that's also another thing. It's like I don't want to be that parent where you have such a drastic switch between like parent and friend. Like my main to answer the main thing, the relationship I want to have is like a parent, but still close. That once I'm kind of done parenting, we're still friends.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah.
We can still talk. We still chat.
Play games.
Maybe playing games,
roll
and stuff
people
like that.
in FPS games.
Yeah, but if they need advice on any life lessons and stuff, they will still come to me and talk to me about stuff like that, and we can still discuss just life things. But I don't want to then have that switch where I turn things into become such either nagging or like small little nitpicks that it's just kind of bullshit. It's like, come on, at that point, you're an adult. If they're an adult as well, it's like you got to learn to give up and know when you're not really a parent anymore. You're more of just an extra guide who's there.
Yeah. I want to say I really hope we just keep doing this podcast for a really long time, and I hope one day we all have children and come back to this episode and we can just see like we can do a follow-up episode. We're saying it right now, episode 483 parenting part 2. And it's like we can I just want to see like how that's actually way too long, isn't that like 10 almost like 8-9 years. Anyway,
no, that's
9.2 years. That's a good time. That's a good time.
Yeah, it's not terrible. But actually, yeah, that is actually a pretty good time. Yeah. I was exactly right. I'm a genius. By then,
if we do have kids, we probably would have like toddlers and shit.
Right. So I think it'd be cool to go back to this and just see how much we were. Because I think the conclusion is we all hope that we're the perfect parents.
I think my conclusion is I actually don't know what to do correctly. So I don't think reinforced that I don't want kids.
I don't think any of us know exactly
that's where we get to bad mentality, Dash. You said rather than maybe learning or understanding it better, I'm just going to fold on this shit. I guess you don't care enough about it, so it doesn't matter.
This is not the same thing, though. This is not the same thing. Because if you fail here, you fuck up a life.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I guess, that is very true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, what every kid eventually learns about their parent is that their parent has no idea what they're doing. So I don't think you're unique in this feeling of I'm not ready, because I don't think there's ever been a parent that's like, oh yeah, I am good. I am so ready for this. Except, well, there
fairly
are
decent.
But I'm not saying like not ready as in bad. I mean not ready as in like I doubt that your mom was like fully confident in every decision she made as she was parenting you. Like I'm sure there are times where she was like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. So that's sort of what I'm talking about. Is I think like, and this is not just me talking. This is like because I did do some Reddit research, and it's like from what I've seen, and not just Reddit research, but also parents I've talked to. It's just like people don't know what they're doing. No parents are like special in that they understand like how to do things. It's just they get thrust into that situation because they're like, oh shit, I'm pregnant. And then it's like, and then it just kind of follows from there. So I think there's no level of preparedness that is going to make it okay. But I think the main thing is all of us clearly care enough to like try to think about this sort of thing and try to like make differences that will help our children. And I think that's a good starting point. But we will see how good we are at actually following through with those things in episode 483. So tune in back there for the follow-up on this. But that's if we continue this podcast to then. I would be very impressed if we did.
Our probably longest running thing.
That would just be pretty impressive in general. I don't know if there's that many podcasts that go for 10 years straight without Is there anything else you want to add, Harry, as the host?
I don't know.
Who do you think is going to be the best parent, Harry? You can say yourself.
I don't know, because I'm worried that I gotta stop hitting my desk. Fuck, I probably gotta edit that out. I'm worried that
it's a precursor. Harry hits his desk, he's gonna hit his children.
So that's the thing. It's like I want to be a good parent, but it takes a lot of time and effort, and I don't want to just quit.
It takes a lot of patience.
Yeah,
that too. And it's like I just don't want to fuck that up, because I've seen what happens when you fuck up parenting, and it's just meh. Not meh. It's not good.
It's bad for everyone involved.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It is a life at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and it's like at the same time, I guess this doesn't really answer your question, but it's like I enjoy my current lifestyle, not having a kid, and just on my own time spending it and stuff like that. Yeah. We'll see if a time comes where I actually feel the urge to have a kid. I wouldn't mind it, but right now I'm like, I enjoyed my current lifestyle, so I don't know. I know Benea's she's not as keen as she is anymore, but I know she wanted kids at one point, and now she's like, after learning some more things about like childbirth and other shit, she's just like, that don't sound too fun.
Yeah, me and Adash were always dead set on not having kids.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wait, wait, really?
No, I meant like between us. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Because we can't have kids.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard some of them
trans.
No, I'm not saying that. I just meant like our.
Okay, that was just a joke.
Yes. Our relationship. Okay, anyway. In conclusion, we're all pro-abortion. Thanks for dropping in and listening to us ramble. Thank you to our parents and our theoretical eventual children. You can find us on youtube.com/@TheDerailledPodcast.
Same.
Yes. Thank you to our parents/S and our theoretical eventual children. You can find us on youtube.com/@TheDerailledPodcast. I already repeated it, so scroll back a few seconds if you need it, with a new episode every Tuesday. Subscribe if you want more episodes, and like the video. This has been Derailed, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Oh, no departure
words this
deuces.
Time?
Oh, were you just trying to think of what the word was?
No, for some reason, my back of my head, I was like, toodles. And I was like, that's not the right one.
I like toodles better. Can this be the toodles era? I think toodles is better.
Toodles?
Yeah, this is the toodles era. We're
now
now
toodles.
We're toodlers now. We're
Toodaloo.
toodles. Thanks for listening.